afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever part of the world and whatever time zone you're joining us from. Welcome! Welcome to the 2023 edition of the Black Consciousness Festival, where we're focusing on healing and reconnection for a second year. The Black Consciousness Festival is a global platform that connects people of African descent with each other by sharing and encouraging exchange through information, traditions, histories, intentions, traumas, celebrations, legacies, stories connecting to pride, power, and practice. Our inaugural year was in 2020, where we created a month of conversations and activities around topics of Black consciousness. In 2021, we had a few events: a youth festival, a weekend of conversations and reparations, and in November, conversations on shift, as we explored the many ways in which we, as people of African descent, shared and rebirthed elements of ourselves. In 2020, we focused on healing and reconnection for the first time, and we've decided to continue that theme this year because it's so important for us all. The recordings of all of these conversations are available on our website, theblackconsciousnessfestival.com, and our YouTube channel. As you listen to the conversations, we encourage you to be kind to yourself. Pause, breathe consciously, move, and appreciate all that you are. Thank you for joining us.
Ancestry, and she resides in Brooklyn with a husband and 3 children. Ival, welcome. Good to see you here. Have a wonderful conversation on strengthening bonds connected with Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. This is such a wonderful opportunity. I thank the Black Consciousness Festival for this time and for creating this space. I am so excited to share this space with Velluma and Anderson. I see them as experts in all things Brazil. And, we're having this conversation to explore the rich history and to really celebrate and share in the richness of the different cultures of Brazil. As a woman of color living in the United States, I recognize the significance and the importance of exploring other destinations that authentically embrace and represent the diversity of their populations. I don't want to spend too much time talking. I want to hear from Velluma and Anderson. And so I'm going to turn to them now to introduce themselves. And maybe we'll start with Velluma. Please share, who are you, why you are in this conversation, and just whatever else you would like to share to captivate our audience.
Pode começar, Anderson, se você quiser. Fique à
You can
vontade.
start, Anderson, if you want. Thank you, Velluma. I'm Anderson from Recôncavo, Bahia. I have a master's in international relations. I acted in the area, but I'm in a different path right now. And I would like to thank for the invites to be part of the festival. I admire everyone here. And the purpose of this talk is to talk about the importance of this territory of Bahia and the importance of this area in Brazil. My name is Velluma Azevedo. I'm from Salvador, Bahia, and my roots are in the Ilha de Itaparica, the Itaparica Islands. It's a space that is composed of the caboclos, the indigenous people of Brazil. I'm a lawyer, and for some time, the significance inside my life is always around the African community. I think this talk is going to be very enriching if we go inside the possibilities of building bonds that strengthen our familiar bonds instead of just um, economic issues. So we plan to strengthen the bonds that are beyond the economical aspects.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Thank you both. So let's just jump right in. I do have some questions, some statements that I'm going to throw out. And I also invite you to take this conversation in the direction that you believe it should go, that will best represent Brazilian culture. So I'm going to start out, I think, by, in a way, I guess, celebrating the diversity of the country. And I'll start by asking you, how does Brazil embrace and celebrate its diverse population? And I guess I'm asking that question for those who have not perhaps visited Brazil and who are thinking about it. I know for the Black Consciousness Festival, we will be there visiting later this year. And so, again, how does Brazil embrace and celebrate its diverse population, making it an inviting destination for, particularly for people of color?
É,
Yeah,
é um ponto bastante
it's
interessante, né?
it's an
Porque
interesting
nós
point
estamos falando agora da
because
autoimagem do
we're talking
país,
about
né?
the
Brasil é um
self-image
país que
in the
passou uma
country,
colonização,
and we're talking
mesmo a
about
colonização
a country that
profunda,
went through
né? E guerras
profound
escravizadas profundas.
colonizations, and we
Então,
have
a conexão para
enslavement
nós,
history.
mulheres, é uma
Uh,
conexão de liberdade,
so
né?
we
Essa
have to
luta
talk
que o
about
Brasil fez com muita
connection
lutada,
about
com muita luta,
liberation.
com muita luta
We've been
racial, com
fighting
muita luta por
for
justiça
our
social.
racial rights
Mas o
here
Brasil
and social
ainda se vê
rights,
nu,
but Brazil
né?
still sees
Essas
itself as a white
manifestações
place.
culturais
These
negras da
cultural
terra, elas
manifestations
são,
of the land,
manifestações culturais de
these
resistência e
are
sempre serão,
manifestations of resistance,
né? Apesar
and
de
there's still
transformações na
happening this way.
política,
Despite
por
transformation
resistir
in the
em um
political
território, hoje
landscape,
você precisa resistir para
it's still a
existir.
territory that we need to resist in order
Ou
to
seja,
exist.
Mm.
I don't know,
mesmo com toda uma teia
even
política de
with a network
financiamento que se constrói por
that
políticas
finances
públicas, né, que
our
também foram construídas de forma internacional, né,
public systems
ainda
that
existe
were
uma
formed
luta
in and
de
with
resistência,
international
de necessidade de
guidelines, we
transformação
still
do Brasil
have
tem sido,
a
que o
need
Brasil tem sido.
to transform the vision that Brazil has of itself.
Mm. So, Velluma, what is that vision that Brazil has of itself? Can you say a little more about that?
É uma pergunta bastante assim totalitária, né?
It's
Mas ela tem de
maybe a
falar do que,
totalitarian
como os
view,
discursos oficiais
but
do
the
Brasil,
official
fala de uma
speeches
democracia racial,
when we talk about
transfronteiriça,
Brazil, it's
o
about
mesmo que o Brasil em 2001 que se admite
racial
essas liberdades
democracy,
raciais e que precisa
Mm.
de
and
políticas afirmativas para
we
que
have only been talking
essas
about social
liberdades. Então,
policies
existem
to
muitas
diminish
lutas no Brasil, muitas
the
lutas
social
de
inequalities
racismo.
when we talk about race
E aí
recently.
existe aí um
And
respiro para
we
algumas
have
manifestações
a
culturais.
breath of fresh air
Existe também uma
in
onda
the manifestation of
internacional
our cultural
liberal que faz com
aspects,
que
but
manifestações
there's
culturais
the
sejam
liberal
cortadas
agenda
pelo
that
mercado, apenas
makes
mercado, né? E nessa luta a
the
gente
all
está
cultural
lutando para essas manifestações
manifestations
culturais não terem
become
mais mercado.
an
A
economic
gente faz
issue,
aqui
to
no,
become a
Mm.
no Brasil
market issue.
intercâmbio e eles trabalham arrecadando
We
para
focus
que
more on
nós,
doing
da
this
diáspora,
change
consigamos
so
nos
that
ver
us in the
em outros
diaspora, we're able
pontos,
to see
né?
ourselves
Quando
in
pessoas de
different
Trinidad e Tobago vêm para o
places.
Brasil,
Because
elas
when people
conseguem
of Trinidad and
enxergar, por
Tobago
exemplo,
come here,
cerimônias com
Mhm.
they should be
com
able to
a
see
água, né?
ceremonies
Conseguem
with
entender as
water,
relações
to see
religiosas,
the
espirituais,
the
que são muito
aspects that we
singulares,
have in
conseguem
common.
entender
we must understand that our culture have aspects that are very similar. It's for us to be able to see uh, with other mirrors. It's not to grab our culture and turn into a market, package it
Yes.
and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So we should go beyond the national the national barriers
Mm-hmm.
because the national barriers are colonial. So we
Mm.
should go beyond it. So for us to be able to have this breath of fresh air, we need to have and implement further these exchanges.
Mm. No, thank you very much for sharing that and being so um clear and just real talk about it. Anderson, what about you? How do you see how would you describe how Brazil um embraces and celebrates its diverse population?
Obrigado pela pergunta, Ival.
Thank you for the question. It depends what Brazil you're talking about. Inside Brazil, there's a great diversity of manifestations and a view of what the country is. I believe that Brazil, that Velluma was talking about, is between Brazil, that is from in Bahia, de Todos os Santos. It's a Brazil that bets on black culture as a form of resistance, and it is
Mm,
able to resist despite all the violences of the colonial Brazil.
mm,
This is a Brazil that sees itself with a future and a present that is not predatory. Uh,
mm,
that is not predatory towards the environment, that is not predatory towards social cultural manifestations. The official Brazil, the colonial Brazil, the violent Brazil is a different Brazil.
mm,
It's the Brazil of the myth of social race, racism, equality, and it's a Brazil that lives despite our differences. It's a
mm,
Brazil that wants to expand itself beyond the Atlantic. eh, and it's a Brazil that we see also happen in different countries uh, that save this memory of resistance that we see in Colombia and Trinidad.
mm,
Uh, it's a Brazil that goes beyond the borders.
mhm,
It's a Brazil that sees an institutional project that is violent towards Black people.
okay, okay. Hmm.
I think I talked too fast.
So, how about Afro-Brazilian heritage? What does that look like? And I'm asking this question because once again, we have folks in our audience who have visited the country, and then we have some who have not. And more so for those who have not, or maybe for those who have, but maybe they were not as exposed to that part of the heritage of the country during their visit. Can you talk a little bit about the influence of Afro-Brazilian heritage on the country's culture, music, and traditions?
A influência afro na cultura do Brasil
The Afro influence in Brazilian culture is fundamental. The main cultural manifestations in Brazil are Black manifestations of culture, and those who have not been here, they're able to get closer to these cultural manifestations. There are different forms of it. There's the urban uh, manifestations, but in they're the ones in the outskirts. But even in the urban centers, it's not. It doesn't happen in one way, and this depends on when it all arrives and the engagements between these places. Uh, we really need to uh, open ourselves to see this different Brazil, and there's people that study these and see and study how these different cultural manifestations go and manifest themselves despite the scenario in Brazil.
Mm,
We are here today because this exchange has been happening for some time, and for those who and the way for those who come and experience, it depends on the way that when you come, how you are willing to take in the culture from the urban spaces and for Black manifestation and really take in and with open arms. So
mm,
I agree with what Anderson said, and it's very important uh, for to talk about the importance of the diaspora coming to Brazil and seeing the Black culture manifestations that we have here in Brazil. Sometimes we're in a territory that is a Black territory, but we don't have the lenses, the means
mm,
to see how the Black population in other countries were able to resist.
mm,
And we are able to then see how our ancestors were able to resist through all this process.
mm,
Sorry. Um, we are able to see how our ancestors were able to resist this colonial system and
mm,
come out of your territory, come to Brazil, is able to see, uh, to really rebuild the lenses and see
mm,
uh, how we were able to resist all of this,
mm,
and we're able to see yourselves in us.
mm,
It gives us a key to be able to rebuild everything that we've built until now,
mm,
so that we're able to retell everything that happened before and build what is going to come. It's a beautiful experience,
mm,
and the most of the Black culture manifestations here were collective.
mm,
When we talk about a world that is more individualistic, when we see manifestations that were built in collectives, in the quilombos, this strengthens on roots so that we
mm,
don't disconnect ourselves from ourselves,
mhm,
nor from our those who are next to us. And all
mm,
this technology that we're using to build this festival can be a tool to disconnect ourselves from what is important, or can be a tool to connect ourselves to what's important. And we're proving here that we can use this tool to connect ourselves to each other, to see each other in the other that is similar to us. And we're able to hold the cell or to rebuild despite
mm,
all this violence.
mm.
We are able to keep on going.
So there's I love the way that you both have mentioned resistance. I think I lost count the amount of times that you've said that since this conversation has started. And it's something that we don't always talk about in other places. Um, but what am I trying to say? I think this concept of living your life in such a way that it is a manifestation of resistance, of resisting um, the impacts of colonialism on your mindset, on your language, your expressions, how you see yourself and how you see others. You also mentioned the individual and the collective. And I think I want us to talk a little more about that. Because for some of us, we live in places where the individual is um, rewarded, the individual is magnified, right? And the more your decisions are based on the individual, the better your life. But I think that there's definitely another way of living. So let's talk a little more about the collective versus the individual and what does that look like? What does that feel like? And you're smiling. Why are you smiling?
Eu tô rindo porque me parece
I'm smiling because it's something curious. What you put there, this ideal, this individualistic place is so demanded for Black people wherever we are, and to go against that and when we see horizons, it seems like the time is so short, and it's the experience that we share here in Brazil is more collective, it's more healing, and coming back to our territory, to our grounds, in Recôncavo, Bahia, in Salvador, we have a lot of spaces of collective building, of projects that are important for so many of us that go beyond those spaces. And we can think about various spaces here. If we're going to name them, it's uncountable. If we have to build a list, part of it is very fragile, and it can it, the aspect of individualism can make us sick. And I think individualism is a myth. It's a myth that is sold to us as Black people, but it's sold to white people as well, saying that you can get there fast by yourself. But who's going to get there? If you go there by yourself, how are you going to get there yourself, but you don't have your roots? Is that still really you if you don't have your roots? I think it's a myth. When I say I'm a mother who has a child that is a 3-year-old, and the gestational period and delivering the child made me rethink about the importance of family. Family is a collective. Family is not just a collective that is blood related. It's about being able to join people with an objective of raising a child. This individualistic views, it's a project that has failed. It's not for mothers. It's not for Black people. It's not for people that have other barriers in life that have been built by colonial powers. So all our manifestations that were successful were collective.
Mm.
And all the individualistic projects that we experience as a community are failures.
Mm.
When we have barriers that are expanded, trying to like chase us away from the collective objective, uh, it's something detrimental to us. And I doubt
Mm.
that this normative being is able
Mhm.
to actually achieve their objectives in an individualistic way, because those who have inheritance, they're already ahead of those who
Mhm.
have a collective,
Mm.
because we have a structure, a myth that we're able to build things ourselves, but no one
Mm.
is. We are not able to raise a child by ourselves. We need grandparents, we need friends, we need other references. We don't need what's coming. Uh, and that person might have a form of behaving that you need to adjust to it.
Mm.
And every that we do that is cohesive must be done collectively,
Mm.
even if it's not something that is day to day collective. I have experience, for example, with Oshun.
Mm.
When someone asks me that I need something, I always think about am I able to do this today? Am I able to uh, partake on that collective right now? So we must always think about think to ourselves if we're able to take part on that collective and really put in the
Mm.
work to do it.
Mm.
And this, but not change it for this myth, because
Mm.
this myth of individualism is something that will not serve us.
Mm. So, can you give an example of collective actions or decision-making process that was successful? And then an example of the opposite and how it was detrimental. And I'm just asking for an example to make it real for the listener.
De exemplo de coletividade
As examples of collectives that work, we talk about Ileaye. It's from Candomblé, and comes from women. And from this collective, we have a politic fights that build a bloco that has more than 40 years of existence, that transform the way we see what is beautiful inside society and how we see ourselves as Black people. This is an example of a collective fight that is not just Ileaye. Inside historic context, there were other initiatives, and inside those initiatives, they also had their successes, but to be the more cohesive example, we have to talk about Ile that is prospering despite the barriers.
Mm.
And we have a lot of barriers to still break because of the economic struggles to keep on going. But inside the individualistic myth, what doesn't work are the is people who are exceptions. We have a lot of people that are exceptions in their own spaces,
Mm.
and they're not able to see themselves in those spaces to mirror those spaces, and they stray away. They become doctors they're not able to find a collective in the space of doctors, and they stray away from their paths. And it's something that is commonplace. So
Mm.
many people that are not being able to join collectives in the spaces that they live and start to have health problems, mental issues, because the isolation is something that bring us health problems. These
Mm.
exceptions of powerful people that were able to achieve this or that is not something that's manageable, because it's something that it's very commonplace, that they are not able to stay on that path, and they end up straying away from it.
What about you, Anderson? Can you think of an example where the collective was made whole, and the experience or the decision-making process was more successful than one that was the opposite?
Olha só, eu não vou nomear aqui um grupo específico,
I'm
mas
going to name a specific group,
no próprio
but
Brasil, por onde
Brazil,
tem
where I walk, has many
dança,
examples. Dance schools, institutes that
formação de
are
base de pessoas
aimed
negras
to really
estão no debate público
put black people
e que atuam
in a space of
no Brasil como
public
coletivo,
debate.
formados por um trabalho
Mm.
People that were
diferente
able
dos
to
terreiros de candomblé,
build
grupos religiosos,
terreiros de
exemplares para
candomblé,
Mhm.
houses of
exemplos
worships,
de fracasso, acho que a Velluma já
and
esses
all
exemplos
the examples of failure.
de pessoas negras
I think Velluma already stated
Mm.
about the exceptions, that people that ascend but are not
de
able to
colocação, de
manage.
colocação de pessoas negras
Mm.
And there are other
nesse lugar
examples uh, of grabbing black people to
na justificação de
work for
colocação
hegemonic agendas
esses são exemplos
Mm.
and be toxic
nomear,
against
mas que a gente
other black people that I would not like to name here,
esses exemplos
but
porque
it's
eles
something
são
that
frequentes, eles são
easily
contemporâneos, eles são
pointed
extremamente
out, and it's
são numerosos
something that is commonplace
numerosos
and
exemplos
that
Mm.
we see happening here quite often.
de individualismo.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
Examples of individualism.
Oh, no, go ahead, please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were saying examples of individualism.
Esses
Go ahead.
exemplos eles são numerosos, ó.
These examples are
A gente não
numerous,
precisa
and
nomeá-los nominadamente,
I won't name them
mas
here,
exemplos positivos que eu
Mhm.
but the
diria
positive
que
examples, like I
também
said,
são numerosos, né?
are great in number.
Exemplo, vou citar um exemplo.
Let
Okay.
me give you
Temos
an example.
em Salvador
Mhm.
We have in
o
Salvador
Instituto Steve Biko,
an institute, Steve
de
Biko Institute,
formação de
that
pessoas negras
does
para
great
essa
work
iniciativa importante.
in being able
Contemporâneo,
to teach
temos
black people.
Mhm.
4
And in
quilombolas
Recongovo da Bahia, we have the Colombola
também
communities
muito
that
importantes
also
para
educate
comunidades negras
inside the
que
communities,
também se interessem
and other visitors as well that come
grupos
by. We have
Mhm.
institutes that that work in the Reconcavo,
para demandar
Mhm.
direitos
that work about the social right
difíceis de
aspects,
acessar. Então, por
Mhm.
exemplo,
and get
temos uma
those
luta
people that have
importante
problems accessing
que
social
foi
rights.
importantíssima
We have the
no
Irmandade de Boa Morte, the
Mhm.
Boa Morte Sisterhood,
positivamente, né?
Mhm.
that
Essa
is
memória
an example of celebration of black memory
positiva
and
Mhm.
give us a positive horizon, and shows that the positive horizon
que atravessa
is possible
anos e
and
anos e
is
anos e consegue
collective.
renovar gerações de negros que se
These
engajam,
are
consegue
institutions that have been there
ser
for
exemplo
years
para
and
outras
years,
gerações
and
Mhm.
they're
e para
example
outros
for
negros, né?
other
Hoje,
initiatives to
atualmente,
come by.
a gente tem em Cachoeira
Mhm.
And
um
in
instituto,
Cachoeira,
né? Uma
we have an institute of the woman of Ashe.
Mm,
It's not an institute that is so old, but it's an institute that uh, that comes by because of other institutes that are working in our town.
okay. Okay. I mean, some of what I think is just exciting to hear is just this. When I speak to whether it's people who live in Brazil or folks who have visited, whether it be once, twice, several times, there seems to be something about the experience, something about the way life is lived, an appreciation of history, an appreciation of that collectiveness and the strength that comes from it. And it's not easy to live in that way, right? Because there are forces that present barriers or go against it. But that Brazil has been able, or there is a Brazil that has been able to maintain itself, keep its stories well protected and alive and shared. And so, as individuals who may be planning to visit, what do you think um, is one of the things that we can do to prepare for that experience? Or can we even prepare for that experience?
Eu acredito que é possível se preparar para
I
essa
think
experiência.
I think we can prepare ourselves to that experience. It's not a specific protocol, a recipe for
Mhm.
us how to prepare for it, but come and witness this
Mhm.
experience with a lot of respect first,
Mhm.
with a lot of respect towards to what you see, to be open to the dialogue and
Mhm.
to feel to
Mhm.
feel the exchange. If it's a genuine exchange, it will be fulfilling.
Mm.
And I think those are the points that I would bring. I think Velluma has other points that she will certainly bring.
Mhm.
I think if to prepare for this experience, I would say to come as a whole,
Mm.
come as a whole person in the sense that you're able to look back, look at your
Mhm.
past, to individual past, inside your space, inside your origins, analyze what you want for your future,
Mm.
individually and collectively, because individuality is not opposed to collectiveness. We all have our individualism,
Yes.
but
Mhm.
we also must build collective.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have to build ourselves, sometimes we have to build collectively. And this is an exchange. We must
Mhm.
come as a whole person to witness and feel this experience and
Mm.
avoid comparisons,
Mm.
to avoid comparisons that have prejudice,
Mm.
uh, that just want to see the difference,
Mhm.
just feel, witness the experiences, because in that way you're able to see the complex aspects within it. Because when you feel, you're able to feel it, to see more, to feel more, to talk more,
Mhm.
because you're there with others. You exchange energy, you exchange experiences,
Mm.
uh, and you're able to see yourself in your past, and you're able to
Mm.
feel the land where you're stepping. And
Mm.
once you're there as a whole, you can start to think yourself about what is similar, what is different, but you
Mhm.
must first feel, uh, must first feel and as a whole person,
Yes.
and then uh, really take on that experience. Because
Mm,
sometimes we only come as the rationale, as the logic,
mm,
uh, and that logic will not be able to absorb everything.
mm,
And when we feel, that's when you're really going to be able to absorb the whole experience.
mm. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So, I think as we start to wrap up our conversation, um, you mentioned the wholeness and bringing your whole self into the experience and into the visit, and it leads me to think that ideally, I guess maybe if we were to bring our whole selves into every place, into every space, every day, that life itself could be more fulfilling and that our learning experiences would be numerous, right? Um, so as we wrap up the conversation, what would you like to leave us with? What is the one thing that I'm sure you have many things that you would like to share, but what is one thing that you would like to leave us with? What is one thing that you would like to share about what makes Brazil such a special place for you?
Ah, quando eu penso no Brasil,
When I
né,
think about Brazil, I think
sobretudo nesse lugar especial do
about
Brasil,
this special
para
place in
mim,
Brazil.
Mm,
Uh, and for me,
específicos
it's
desse
specific
território.
territories
É
mm,
uma forma de enxergar o mundo
that are a form of observing the world,
mm,
not something that is shared from north to south. I'm not entirely sure on that,
mas é uma memória
mm,
but it's a memory of Brazil that is very
está
affection
muito assim no
mm,
and that is in very present in the
e eu
Recôncavo
diria
in
que
Bahia.
para quem
And for those who come to this space,
que tome o tempo
uh, take your time.
de vivenciar isso aqui
Take your time to really live
com muita
this
com muita
mm,
abertura,
with open
conversando com as
arms,
pessoas com uma
talking to
sem
everyone,
pressa, sem
uh,
o tempo
with no rush,
todo
not thinking about the
sendo
clock, not thinking about individualism,
simplesmente
not thinking about technology.
colocou. É que eu
mm.
Like Velluma said, being here as a whole, as a person.
Thank
For
you.
me,
Mm,
what makes Brazil special is this the collective experiences that what brings me nutrition uh, in the sense of building pride,
mm,
building pride, especially the people in Rococo have of having managed to build this space, not an hegemonious thoughts, and I know that our experience is not the same. In Recôncavo, we might be exceptions, but we are a lot of exceptions in the whole of Brazil. But talking about this specialty
mm,
in Brazil, I also see these specialty in other spaces outside Brazil,
mhm,
and I'm able to see the positive aspects of these exceptions and forms of living in Brazil and be able to observe them in your own country, because there's always a lady that nobody notices that is selling water, that is worshiping Oshun, that is building something collectively, and you are able to observe that all around the diaspora. These aspects of Brazil that we're able to show are just the key, so that when you come back to your own country, you're able to observe how the marginalized aspects of the country are what really have value. And that is because we don't really notice the aspects of our culture that are right next to us. And what gives me energy day to day is the collectiveness, is capoeira, is nakani, to see how my brothers and sisters are able to overcome their barriers, how they're building their path. I don't need to know about all spaces, but I want to see this pulsating life and experience that my brothers and sisters are living. And I think this is what makes us feel whole in our way of living.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, so much for sharing that. Your points are received and much appreciated. So this conversation was really about connecting with ourselves, connecting with those around us, connecting with our history, connecting with our culture, language, music, art, with everything that has been given to us to help us to be whole, to be special, to be happy, and to be fulfilled. And so thank you for sharing your points. And I think that brings us to the end of this conversation. And guess what? I look forward to seeing you in Brazil. So thank you. Okay.
Obrigado também, Ival.
Muito obrigada ao festival, obrigada ao Sean,
Thank
a
you so
Eric,
much for the festival, for Oshun, Erica, for Ivo, to Anderson, for this moment, for this talk. And let's keep on going. Let's build this future that we want.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good night. Bye-bye.